Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stories with Bri. I am super excited for my guest today. It is Arthur Nonku. She is a children's literary author, not Arthur, but Arthur. Sorry, y'all, for stumbling over my words. Y'all should know by now that this is gonna happen. But I'm super excited to talk with her today about the books that she has, and just very excited to just get to know you as well, and to introduce you to my audience, and to learn more about you. So please feel free at this time, if you have more that you want to share about who you are and what you do.
Yes,
You have the floor.
definitely. Thank you, Bri. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate being part of this podcast. I'm so excited to share a little bit about who I am and what I do as well. First and foremost, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of two toddlers, and I am also, I was born in Africa. I moved to North America when I was 16 years old. I'm also a healthcare professional. So by day, I'm a healthcare professional. By night or by weekends, I'm a writer and mom and everything else. But I enjoy what I do. I truly believe working from the heart. And that's what my father taught me, who is my hero. And all I do is from the heart. And if my heart is not it, actually, I let go. I always say life is too short to do the things that don't please your heart. So I am very, very aware of that. And I always follow that because I think it makes it easier in life and makes it easier and makes life worth enjoying when you're doing things that you love and really your heart is in it. And
I
so
absolutely agree with everything that you just said, because part of the reason why I'm able to do this podcast and why I'm able to have these conversations with people is because I really love what I do and my heart is in it. And
yeah.
I too try my best to steer clear away from things that my heart's not in it, because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't go well. And you can tell when I'm not
Yeah,
invested. And
I
so
know.
I try my best to be in a space where I'm surrounding by myself around people who are invested in the things that they love. And I also love a multi hyphenate. I do a lot of things too. I'm an author, I'm a publisher, I'm a
Nice.
librarian. I
I
got a
love it.
regular job too, on top of what sometimes we call it our side hustle. So this is like a side hustle. So I'm doing this on the side. So look, I always have things going on. So I understand, and congratulations and God bless you on being a mom of two toddlers. Listen.
It is fun. It is fun. My son is turning 5 this month, and honestly, it makes you reflect. I think it's the reason too where you really I read some quote or some poem. It's nice April,
right.
and it was like this lady was talking about how she's getting older. She's almost 100 years old or something like that, and she's realizing that her days, that she's gonna live are much less than the days that she's lived before, and
Wow.
so now she's like. It's like every moment she's savoring, like she called it candy, right? She's savoring every moment like a piece of candy, not rushing it, just taking his time, like, right, enjoying the piece of candy, knowing that life is limited, like, but the thing that she said was, it's too short to like waste my time in meetings that are not helpful for me anymore, right?
Hello.
Doing all these things, like, so like, when you become a mom, you also think about those things, like what is really important, what is valuable for you and your family. And it shifts a little bit, to really start that process of spending time in the things that make your life full. And I'm all about that. I can go on and on, Bri, on this subject, so I should probably
Listen, I'm okay with that. I need the wisdom. I'm not a mom yet. I've been an auntie all my for a
oh
big, large chunk of my life. However, I have helped with the rearing of my oldest nephews, and it takes a
no.
lot. So shout out to all the mamas and the daddies out there that have to take
Yes.
care of these kids, who are very much so reflections of ourselves, and
Yes.
our parts of our personalities. Because I just believe that each one of your kids, although they're unique, they take on parts of your
You
personality that
do.
you're like, you know what, I didn't want you to have that. I didn't want you to take that, but here we are. And so now
I
I got
know.
to deal with it, and now I got to have more grace and more patience
Mhm.
for my own parents, because you're now a parent. I could imagine that you do. You're like,
Yeah.
listen. Was I like this when I was a kid? I'm just pretty sure those conversations go through your mind because they went through my mind even as helping as an auntie with
I
my
know.
nephews. So
Yeah.
this conversation definitely could be a lifelong conversation, and I would just sit at your table and be like, listen, tell me all of it, just let me soak it in. But I want to
I'm ready to pour.
listen, so I want to make sure that we stay on track here because it could definitely go to a different direction immediately. So I like to start off my guests with some icebreakers, and so my first icebreaker is, if you can remember, what was your favorite childhood book?
So, funny story. I never had books when I was a child.
Wow.
I grew up without a book. We were like doing storytelling, and so I started reading books when I started school.
Yeah.
So I remember like my very early books as a child. Honestly, I was a teenager, I think, because I was reading a lot of Mills and Boons, like some really old classic. So yeah, but I can say what I love to read my children right now. My favorite book, I love Grace Byers' I'm Enough. You know,
Yes.
actually it inspires how I write and how I think about books. And so that I would say that's one of my favorites books that I read to them almost all the time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful inside and out. I have not had the opportunity to purchase a copy yet, but I plan
Mhm.
to because I remember when it first came out and I was like, oh,
Oh my God.
this is different. And
I love
I like
it.
it. And so yeah, I definitely, that's one of my faves, even though I
Mhm.
haven't purchased one yet. It's definitely on my
Yeah,
children's books to buy in the near
definitely.
future. It
Yeah, it's
is.
definitely a good one to have. I like yeah, I mean I'm obsessed with it such that my trailer is inspired by that book, like everything. I mean, I was just like, I just want this whole theme.
Yeah, I mean,
So
hey,
yes.
we all get our inspiration from somewhere. And
Yes.
it's Grace, if you're hearing this, Miss Nanku loves your stuff. Y'all should partner and collaborate because obviously that is something that I feel like needs to happen more anyway. So I
Mhm.
would love to see that. I can't wait to see it. And I could be like, exclusive, happen here at Stories with Bri. We talked about it. I believe that at some point you guys will probably connect and that will be at least a moment, even if you just get a chance to
Yes.
tell her your book changed my life and my children's life. I think she'll
Mhm.
really appreciate that.
Yeah,
So do you have a library card?
I do.
Yeah.
And I do. So it's so funny because, like, you know, how I was saying, as a child, I never owned a book. But
Mm-hmm.
when we first started going to school, you know, like the primary school I went to made us get a library card. And I want to say I still have it somewhere in my mess here. I kept that first library card that I had, you know, as a child, and I still have it today. It's like a reminder that it's honestly, it's the world of opportunities, right? My children, like that, just got their library cards last weekend too.
Yes.
So we're all booked and ready.
Hey, yes, I am an advocate for libraries here. I feel like you're paying your taxes. You better utilize that free resource because it's just
Yes.
fortunate that we get the opportunity to have that. Because I recognize that that's not something that probably traditionally happens all over the world. But the
Mhm.
fact that we get the opportunity to have this privilege of going to a place that we can have access to materials, and most
Mhm.
libraries, not all of them, but most of them are switching over to a fee-free thing so that
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about fearing not going to a library because if your
Yeah.
books are overdue or if you lose something, then that's a problem. And I love the fact that they're now moving into that space to where they're
Mhm.
recognizing that those fees are kind of some of the things that are preventing people from coming in. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I wish that more and more of them continue to do it. At first, I was like, I was a person that was like, well, if they don't do the fees, then how does the library get their money back to build their materials? But then I thought about it and
Mhm.
I was like, this fee thing is a barrier for the
It is.
people who don't have the finances who need to
Mhm.
utilize the library to come in
Mhm.
and to accept, to be able to have free reign to use and bring and get whatever it is that they need. And there is a very small amount of individuals who are, it's a very, very small amount for individuals who are not bring you items and stuff back. So I was just like, I had to change my mind. I have to update some thinking myself. So I had to reprogram myself to think like, this is still a problem. So
Yes,
even
we
as
have
a
to be.
librarian,
I know we have to be in a habit, right, of
Mhm.
changing how we see things, and
Often.
our bias, checking everything all the time. Yeah.
All the time. So are you a digital or a pen and paper type of girl?
Pen and paper, definitely a pen and paper.
Okay. Yeah, most people that have come on, they've either been pen and paper, solely pen and paper, or they've kind of been like,
I
both.
know.
I do a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, I can be hybrid. I guess it depends. Like, I am anal about my calendar being. I have my calendar on my phone, right? I have my calendar on my computer and everything like that. But I also love to write it down. Like, I have a big calendar of everything that I write down, and I use my written one more, right? Because when I write, you remember. Like, since school, when I write something, I always remember. So I write things down so I remember what's going on. So, but then when it comes to writing my book, right? When I write my book, I use my phone. I use my notes.
Okay.
Literally, all my books are there. I record my voice. Like, if I can't write, I'm recording it. So like, it just depends on what's the scenario. But definitely love that paper and pen type of thing.
Hey,
It's
I'm mad at
comforting.
you. I'm not mad at you. So you mentioned Grace Briers, but do you have a favorite author or writer outside of Grace?
So many. Like being being a children's book author, I've got to meet so many independent authors who I love to support. And honestly, I think that all my inspiration, Naomi Dunstan White, you have Kim, you have Jacqueline Cran, like so many amazing authors that I've met, honestly, that I learned something from them, right?
Okay.
And so I would say all my independent author friends, I think my network, honestly, they are all, I've learned something from them, right? I think their style of writing, how they show up, everything. So I wouldn't say just one, right? I would just definitely like that cohort of sister authors that, we have. I really appreciate and love each one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a special place. It's a special place in my heart here for independent, self-published authors. So you're not gonna get any protests from me on that regard. I am very much so biased in that way because as a publisher, I do help independent authors get their books and their things published. And it takes a certain amount of tenacity and drive to decide that, hey, not only do I want to be a writer, but I want to be an author. And I also want to publish my books, and I want to make sure that this material gets directly to the consumer. And then I'm also going to be my own marketing specialist and all of the other things that go on with promoting yourself that you're not getting from a traditional backing from what maybe a traditional publisher would do. And all of that funding is coming directly out of your pocket to make sure that those things happen. But the benefit of that is the fact that all of that money then comes back to you and you don't have to worry about, paying someone else. And for the most part, maybe for your illustrations and things of that nature, but your cost still is a little bit more minimized versus all of the money going out, going out, going out. And then you only see maybe a fraction of those things, and that's kind of, and even with the independent publishing and stuff, there can be some ebbs and flows there as well. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox on that regard because I could go all day about that. So when you mentioned that when you write your stories, use your notes app, and I am an advocate for the Notes app over here, a big advocate for the Notes app over here. I've always said, Apple, if y'all want to sponsor us, I will be the sponsor for that app. So I am a big advocate for the Notes app. So you say you use the Notes app and then you do some voice recording and stuff. What else is your process like as you prepare to plan out a project or what you're going to do?
I know. So I guess, right, being a mom and, having juggling a lot of things, I don't honestly plan out. Like, I would love to have, I don't know if I would do it. Like, let's say if I had a writing retreat, I just take a weekend, I go out to write. I don't know how effective I will be. I've never tried it. It's always in a run. Like, I think it's like things that inspires me. Like, so like, for example, I started actually, like, it's so funny, storytelling. I've been thinking about writing up my African story in some ways, like how we grew up,
Mhm.
just like the different unique things. In my books, I try to highlight a little bit of my, you will see like the unique bus, or you will see like a weird, different picture. I try to bring in like some African heritage into my books. It might not be like the main thing, but it's there, hints of it.
That's good.
And so, yeah, so I've been thinking about it. So, but my process is honestly, it's sometimes I'm just telling my kids a story. Like right now, we've been telling a story about like how we used to walk on this road every day when we walk to school, right? We're always walking.
Mhm.
And I remember the road being so dusty, like, and just like if you're going to school, sometimes the shoes get dirty. And so we will walk miles to get to the bus stop. And before we get to the bus, because we know, right, the bus will be packed, you can't clean your shoes when you're in the bus. So before we get on the bus, we make sure we clean our shoes, put that little cloth back in our bags, and then so we're ready and clean for school. But just sharing a little story of that, my son has been very interested. Every night, like he would like read a book, and then he'd be like, tell us the story about this road and what you guys did. So I've been telling him the story, and I was like, oh my god, I need to be recording this.
Yeah.
And so like I told him the story, and I was recording the story in my voice, on my voice app, because we're like getting ready to sleep. So that's like one area. But sometimes, and most of the time, my process comes when I'm relaxed. I like to take long baths, or when I'm just about to nap. I
Okay.
think about something, and then something inspires me, different things. I just wrote a piece. Like I had a friend who passed away, like a couple of months back, just before she turned 40. And, like I was just thinking, oh my God, what happens to us when we go away? Like, what do our kids, like, just had a moment of thinking about that. And then I started writing a story. I just like literally just got to my phone. It wasn't a good place to write. I just lay there. My daughter was sleeping next to me. And I just started writing. Like literally, I just went on and on and on. I just wrote what I was feeling like, but it was more like a message for them that they will have whenever I publish that book, right?
Mhm.
In the future, like when I'm gone, like they will know I'll always be there. That's the title of the book. But I just started writing. I started writing and writing, and I finished it actually. And then I put it away. It just, I have a lot of manuscript that I've already been working on, but I don't have, a planned process. I don't know if there's a term for this. I just, when inspires come, my new book, I was driving to work, dropping off my son from downtown Chicago, dropping my son off at preschool, and I was going to work at Northwestern, and
Mhm.
a line came to my head, like the tree, like I was just like looking at the trees. I don't know. I just gazed for a minute, and then I was like, oh, like trees, our voice change. I was like, oh, that's a line, right? And I grabbed my phone, I recorded, like, I was just like, yeah, so I recorded the line. And then of course it went, it made it to my book, the final editing. So it's everywhere. I think inspiration for me is everywhere. And I don't have, I'm probably working on 3 different projects right now
Okay.
that, when I feel led to publish one, then I will. But I think I only have like 3 ready to be edited manuscripts, but I just keep thinking about them. When something comes, I add a line or 2 to them, but I don't have, I don't know if I'll be able to. I don't know if I'm that organized, like just sit down for 2 hours and write.
Yeah, yeah. I understand. I understand completely because in so many ways I write the same way because I'm always on the go. So it's interesting that you even brought that up. So like my first book, I would say that I did do more of sitting and trying to
Ooh.
write and trying to process and go through. But then I like stopped writing for almost a year. And
Wow.
I set it down because I was really trying to understand what story I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell the story from a healed place. I wanted to make sure that I was telling my parts of the story and not telling someone
Mhm.
else's. In many ways, I was still protecting others, even if it did affect me. I was protecting people in the story and trying to make sure, like I said, I was telling the stories from my perspective and not telling someone else's story and not giving them the right in the room to be able to tell their story.
Mhm.
But then that worked out. But the second book, I called myself trying to plan like this, like the month of March was supposed to be right. And I literally put the calendar invite in there. Write write your book every day in the month of March. Did not at any point, because I was also filming for Stories of Bri and stuff, did not at
Mhm.
any point really have a chance to like physically sit and just write.
Mm.
It came in spurts. if I'll have an idea, or I have a concept, or I was thinking about something that affected me deeply, or whatever it was,
Mhm.
might take 30 minutes. I'll write everything that I feel in that 30 minutes,
Mhm.
and the words will just come and it will just flow out. And then I'll
Mhm.
be like, okay, I'm done with this for now. And then
Yeah.
I'll go back maybe later, or as I'm walking, as I'm processing all of these different things, I'm just adding them as notes into this space.
Mhm.
So almost like an
Mhm.
outline type thing, but I'm constantly adding, I'm constantly coming up with titles to the chapters, and concepts and ideas that I'm thinking about. And so eventually, at some point, because my goal is to publish my second book this year, eventually I will
Mhm.
go through all of those notes, and I would kind of combine them together and then do some
Mhm.
fillers. But I'm doing the same thing that you did. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I've ever had a moment where I'm trying to work with this second book where I just kind
Mhm.
of was able to sit at a space for several hours and just write. I have not had that. So I completely understand. And I think that that's, my writing has always kind of been like that, especially when it comes to like poetry for me. And right, it's
Mhm.
poetry month, super excited about that.
Yes.
But when it comes to poetry, I'm inspired by all kinds of things, and I always
Mhm.
write poems on the go. And I don't even know
Mhm.
what it feels like to kind of just sit there and just write hours and hours and hours. And I was like, it takes a certain amount of discipline to sit in one spot and just and write that way.
Oh, and I don't know. I feel like I'll be so stressed out, like the pressure of having to deliver. It'll be so
Mhm,
much more for me that I don't know if I'll be able to deliver. Like
mhm.
I feel like writing is at least for me it's a source of healing.
Yeah.
It's really a source of letting go and getting inspiration. My daughter is at the door.
Oh, that's okay. She's like, Mommy, I want to interrupt. I want time. When you
Oh,
have kids, they look, you can't take an hour off. You don't get that. So that's okay.
oh no, I know, oh no. But yes, but yeah, I think that'll be the hardest thing to do. So it just has to come, right? And then so I don't have to stress about it, right? Because it's not my primary. I enjoy doing it, but like right, I'm not on a demand on like a contract, right? I have to deliver 5 chapters, So why do I make it stressful for myself then? Like, right? I don't know.
Oh, you just listen, you just saved my whole life with that one statement. And that's so true. And I think that is also a benefit of right of just being your own boss in that way, is that you have to recognize, like, stop creating anxiety for yourself. And that's what I was trying to do. Because I was starting to feel a little way. I was like, I'm not sitting, I'm not writing, this prompt keeps coming up. Then I was like, but you are writing. You're just not
Mhm.
writing in the way that you would have probably expected yourself to do so. But you've
Yeah.
been writing. And once you
Mhm.
put all of these thoughts together, you might have a whole book here and you just haven't bothered to put it all together yet. And to be
Mhm.
honest, I do have a whole book of material already written out that I have to just go through and organize. And so I
Mhm.
had to relieve myself of
Yeah.
the pressures of thinking that way and being confined to this particular type of space. And so you
Mhm.
just mentioned that you're currently working on 3 different books at one time.
Mhm.
How do you do that? How do you just manage to just come up
You
with
know,
ideas for 3 different things?
yeah. So when I started writing, Bri, for me, like, all right, I was coming from a place of healing. Actually, writing came. I lost my father, and
Oh,
I was feeling it in a. I was in a dark place a little bit, right? And so a lot of things came up. I remember actually, I wrote 3 chapters. Like I have a book that I'm writing, like a chapter book that I'm writing. I literally had 3 chapters done in one sitting. I just like literally just like I was just letting go of
mhm,
what I was feeling, sharing my story that way. But then, in that midst of it all, I wanted something positive for my children. That's how I went into children's book. But like titles come all the time. Like, so like, I mean, my series is like I celebrate, right? I celebrate myself, I celebrate my voice. And
mhm,
so I have like probably 5 or 7 titles of different things that I
yeah,
celebrate, right? And
yeah,
so like it's all these different ideas. Like I was telling you, like I have this book now about the road. So it's all there in
mhm,
my notes. And so like sometimes I would just think of something like right, like, and then I fill in a puzzle, a page or 2 pages of book number one, but I don't think of it as like, I'm probably working on more. I don't know, but I don't think of it as like, okay, I want to finish these 3 projects now. I want to say actually 3 of them are done. But I know they're out there. Sometimes inspiration will come and then I'll add some things, I will tweak a thing, I mean, I have them in memory, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think I don't confine myself in that space of, I don't know what I'm releasing for my third book yet, but I know I'm going to have a third book next year, right?
Okay.
So I'm keeping my energy, I'm keeping my, I'm just keeping a flow of like, right, like whatever I feel, where I'm led to, right? My son is very involved in the titles now because he can understand. So he's like leading me like, oh, okay, so it seems like to like this more. All
Okay.
right, maybe let's do this one book next. So I just, I think it's just take my time, allow it to flow, and then just write as it comes, refine it. And when I choose to start editing one, then that's when I focus on enhancing that just one book, right?
Okay.
And getting it ready. But the manuscripts are done. And it's just a matter of building up on that and just making it better every day.
Okay, so you just mentioned something that I thought was one is sweet and significant. You said that your son is also involved in this process with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a children's literature author, as a children's lit book person, would you say, did you start writing a desire to write children's books because of you becoming a mother, or was that something already there that was brewing and you just was like, okay, I'll now pursue this more now that I have stepped into this role?
Yeah.
I see you shaking your head no. So did you start
Yeah.
because you had children? Huh?
Yes, like I never thought I'd be an author, honestly. And I think with my first book, I don't even think I did too much research. I learned a lot along the way, but I was just ready. It just came and I just did it. Like, I'm very I'm such an emotion person, right? Like I like how like the heart, I really sometimes I don't do much reasoning. I follow my heart and I just do. When my heart says go, I go. And so like, yes, my son at that time inspired me to write my books because I wanted him at that time to really see himself in books, but also to feel like, right, to like love himself at a young age. Like kids are like sponges. They take anything, like they learn words, they take anything. I just imagine how beautiful would it be to empower children to love themselves and really learn this at an early age. Imagine like they grow up, I mean, they will come out, peer pressure, whatever. They have a foundation of self-love, self-awareness, confidence. Like it's going to be very hard to shake that foundation. And so that's really what my books, like everything came about from that point, like building a strong foundation for my children to love and embrace their stories and who they are. So that when they go out in the world and I'm not there with them, they know who they are. They cannot be shaken from that.
Yes, that's so good. Oh my goodness, that's so good to know who you are. That is so important. And in the grand scheme of things, do you feel as far as like there has been a lot of overhaul in children's literature where we're seeing more diverse stories, we're seeing more of our stories being told, we're seeing more book deals in that area where when you walk into the bookstore now, you can actually physically see books made for and made by people of color. And I'm just like, I remember when I was a kid, and I'm not that old, I'm in my early 30s. This wasn't always present, even when I was a young child, but it's generations of kids now where that's going to become a norm for them. They are not going to know what it means to not see books that look like them. Or that's a beautiful thing, right?
That's an amazing thing. And it's really like all the strides that every author is trying to do, right? I mean, just imagine. So like if they don't have to worry about seeing themselves in books, what more can they do, right? It's like the world of possibilities is just so vast. They can accomplish absolutely anything. We're bridging those barriers for them to find their identity, to their confidence, right? We're bridging that barrier and creating them and putting them in a step further,
Yes.
to propel even higher, to reach beyond the skies. And so it's an amazing thing. And I say it gives me chills when I think and talk about it, because I look at my kids, I think about my struggle as a child that I had to go through, right? I mean, their world, I didn't have running water in the house, like simple things like that. I had to go out, fetch water for drinking.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it at the time, like, but that's my life. But
Mhm.
for them, everything is just right, like everything is just here.
It's
So
here.
like their life, their barriers are very different, and they're already at a position to do even more than I can ever thought imagine. And that's a legacy. That's a beautiful thing that I think that we're building, and I'm excited to be part of it. I think that's the inspiration for me to go forward and to push.
And yes, yes, all that. And you just mentioned something that's so important to note, because parts of that is also a part of my own story. Although I have lived in a place where I do know what it's like to have an indoor plumbing system and to live where a place where there's running water and stuff. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. However, that does not discount the struggles that I've had to deal with navigating
Mhm.
and growing up. For instance, while I was growing up, in many ways, based off of the United States or whoever's definition of what homelessness is, I was homeless. I grew up in a church. For the maybe the first 15 to 17 years of my life, I actually
Wow.
physically lived inside of a church because this is a
Wow.
property that my grandmother owned, and we lived in that space, and that's where we were because, financially, we really couldn't afford it. We would maybe move out in and out sometimes to rent or whatever, but for the most part, we couldn't carry that burden. And so we use the tools and the things that we have. And so now this generation, like my nephews and stuff, they don't really know what it feels like. They only live there for a brief moment. But for the
Mm.
majority of their last 10 to 12 years of their life, they know what it's
Mhm.
like to live in a house. They know what it's like to have a shower, to have hot running water, to have things, those minor things that people think are supposed to be necessities that are actually luxuries. And I would tell my
Mhm.
friends and them all the time, like, a shower is a luxury. Having a television is a luxury.
Mhm.
Having these different things, hot water is a luxury. Like, we're fortunate, and you're fortunate to never have to ever really be in that type of position.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I love how you're saying that, it does help to change and expand their horizons, and it doesn't cap them to believe that they do and they will. And I will
Mm.
say that I was fortunate enough to have a parent who didn't put those types of barriers on me as well, saying that I had to be a specific type of way in society. I had to confine myself to these types of rules. I've never had those limits put on me. And I believe that did give me free space to just dream and to consider a lot of the things that I desire to do. Now, there were some limitations in certain areas about some
Yeah.
things, but there was just some hesitancies there because of,
Mhm.
previous generations trauma and having to deal with certain things. But in many ways, I feel like my creativity was never staunched because I grew up around entrepreneurs and creatives, and they allowed me space to expand. My grandmother has always allowed me space to expand, which I really appreciate her for. And in that
Mhm.
expansion, she supported me. And what I feel like you're doing as an author, and you can tell me if this is true, and as an author and a mom, you're giving your children that ability to expand and to see
Yeah.
themselves and to desire to say, if mommy can do this, if she can be an author, if she can be a healthcare worker, you can do both of these things too, or you can go a step further. Is that kind of
Mhm.
like the purpose and the place that
Yes.
you're heading in?
Yes, and honestly, and beyond that, Brie, I think the beauty of it is also sharing my story, because I grew up in a rural village, and I look back, I'm always connected with my roots back home, and I want to inspire those children who are growing up right now, right? I'm working on making sure that book access, like children don't grow up without books anymore. I have a lot of donation campaigns that I'm working on to make sure that people in villages across the world, especially in Africa, right? Everybody has a book. So it's yes, it's my children. It's also beyond that, like to share that it doesn't really matter who you are, where you come from, what you have, what you don't have. You also have a potential to be more than you can ever imagine, right? You have a potential to achieve anything, right? Look at me, like where I am today. I reflect on it all the time, right? From where I grew up to be where I am today. It's nothing but grace, but also somehow my parents believed that we could do more. And so I was able to dream
Yeah.
and push to achieve those things. And so it's really a testimony, like even your story, right? Which is why I think it's so important for everyone who wants to write and share their story, because you're not only telling your immediate people or your immediate families that this is possible, this can be done, but you're touching somebody who is in the same situation as you right now,
Yeah.
to look and learn and say, I too can do it. And I think that's the beauty of being an author, to touch the unseen, but hopefully with your story, you can help create a change, a chain of belief that people can be anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, and can and will and have the access to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. It's just it just makes me feel so good. Like having this conversation feels so great. It's just so
Yeah.
uplifting. It's so warming. So I am
Mm.
just enjoying it. I'm soaking it all in because I'm like,
Yes.
yes, yes, I love all of that. And
Oh,
yes, and let's go back to talking about your home space and your homeland and where you come from. And you say that in your books you try to incorporate at least one small piece of that in everything that you
mm,
write. How essential and important is that? Like, and art, and I know you said that you're working on a few things that tells your story, but how important is that for that particular piece in that particular heritage to be placed within the story that of course will live on well beyond
mm,
you? And how important is it for you to incorporate that into the society and the culture that you're now engulfed in, like in
mm,
America? And why do you think it's important for even us as Americans to
mm,
understand what it's like to actually live in Africa, to grow up and to be, bred, or I don't want to say bred because it makes it sound like an animal, but to be nurtured in a space in such a
yeah.
beautiful country outside of what we've probably been fed in media and all of those different things that are not
Mm,
always conducive to the actual beauty of the place. Why it's so important
mm,
for your stories to
yeah.
have that in there.
I know, Bri, the reality of things is we will never experience all the different experiences that the world has for us, right? I will never learn, understand your story. Like I may live parts of it, I may experience part of it, but
Mhm.
you only have your own unique story that you have lived and you can tell. And so for me, my African heritage is so important in so many ways, right? I started to write because my father inspired me, but putting that little bit of that, it's in so many ways, right? The first thing is really for my kids. I want them to look at my second book, actually. I have the kid wearing the flag of my country,
Mhm.
right? Well, someday they will know this and they will like connect with that, right? But it's just really bringing that awareness that everybody has a different story, and learning about that story helps you understand a little bit of some empathy, like you're right, you get to understand how other people live. And I think when
Mhm.
you're empathic, you begin to care, you
Yeah.
begin to understand, you begin to be mindful. And so I think it's very good educationally to widen our horizon on how others live. It's so funny, like sometimes, not funny, really, but I was picking up my son from school, and we're stopped in somewhere on Lakeshore, and there were like this guy like who were begging for money.
Mhm.
And then my son started asking the questions, right? We never talked about it. Like, Mom, why are they outside? It's so cold, it's raining. I was like, they are asking for money because maybe they don't have a home. I don't know their story, but they need our help. And I think I don't know what we gave him at that time, but and so every time he saw it, he was like, it's so good to share, because when you share, you can help others get what they don't have, right? Like, every time we pass through that's and it's all the same people, right? You like think about that, like, I need to be able to share. I need to be able to be grateful
Yeah.
for what I have. And so I think from an early age, showing those little things, I think I showed different things. Like I think in my second book, I even show the community, like the name of the bus had the name of the village I grew up in, right? I just put it there in the background, like only people who maybe know or see will understand, oh, that bus looks familiar, right? And then I tell the story about that, right? And so it's just little things. And some of the things, like for my first book, I had kids playing in the water in the river, right? Because we did a lot of things there, right? We did our laundry in a river. We learned how to swim in a river. We used to get water outside of the home, like in a well or a river, right, for different things. And so there's a lot of stories in there that I can tell my children about how we grew up. And they'll remember that, and they can share it to their kids and to their kids' kids. And so it's really building those little stories about your heritage embedded in the story, so that that heritage lives on and they can remember where we came from, how things were started, for them. We might not have a full family tree. Maybe we should have a family tree, but they can always have something that will help them connect those pieces and learn just a little bit more about how mommy and daddy grew up. And right, so it's all about that, I think. But more than anything is teaching kids empathy, to learn about others, to understand what others go through, and so they can appreciate and be grateful and find ways to help. And because you can't help if you don't know, so it's a way of just bringing that awareness.
Absolutely. You can't help if you don't know. That is that is so true in so many ways. And it's so important to me that you said what you said, because we have this thing that's happening right now. Of course, it's being based in Texas, but to be honest, it's been happening all over the country and even all over the world, in many ways, where there's this book banning and there's this children's lit book banning. There is different grade level book banning, and it really is these adults trying to like enforce their way onto children, or enforce their way into censoring which, I mean, I guess on some front, as a parent, you do have your right to decide what you want your child to be influenced by. However, I don't think you have the right to say that that should be a rule that's enforced on a whole group of people. You're responsible for your own household, not for everybody else's household. So what are your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on why you think this either is a nuisance, or if you think that it's important? Just, what are your thoughts? Share your thoughts on book banning.
I think book banning, the fact that it's happening is very unfortunate, because to me, it's silencing people, and it's 2022. How can you silence voices, right?
No.
That is just not right. So when you silence somebody who's sharing a story through a book, you are limiting and you're cutting their voice. And in this day and age, that shouldn't be the case. But the biggest thing too is that it's surprising to me, but of course not surprising, that we still feel like, knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. So when people know and learn, they think differently. But this is a form of control, because then we want certain people to only learn certain things. And then it's limiting. And honestly, it's I can't think of the right word right now without thinking of a bad word, but it's it's suffocating in a way. Like, you're really suppressing voices when we already have freedom of speech, when we already have the right to choose, the right to learn, to expand our knowledge. And so when you ban and stop books that telling a story that you just may think it's shouldn't be heard, but it's true. Like, to me, it's like you're suffocating somebody who is trying to let their voices out just because you don't agree with that. So like, that's a form of control of knowledge expansion. Like, you're just controlling because you want certain things to be done. And this is a problem, honestly. And it's an unfortunate thing that's happening even in literature, right? Like, that's why now there's a big part of self-published authors, because their stories are not represented, right? We're not all rich, we're not all famous, we are not all right. We all have different stories that we want to share to touch the vast majority of people around the world. And so when you suppress that, you are saying my story doesn't matter. It's 2022. My story matters, my voice matters, and I cannot be suppressed, because where I come from, what I have to say matters. So let people choose what to read, but don't control the distribution, or like, right, don't control this book because you don't agree with it. That's a form of control, suppression, slavery in a different level, but you're controlling what people can learn, and you're controlling that knowledge, that powerful thing that helps them be and understand who they are. That's wrong. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's very wrong. Like even with some of the things that we saw happening with the Supreme, well, she's not the Supreme Court justice yet, but some of the conversations that were being had surrounding books and things of that nature when she was being questioned, and Miss Kantanji, and it was just like, what? Like your limited understanding of this. And the crazy thing about it is a lot of the people that are advocating for these things to happen, you've probably never even read the book. You probably don't even know nothing about it. And then the crazy thing about it is just a lot of this is happening around people of color's literature. It's not someone that doesn't look like us. It's more people that are on this list that are people of color than there are that are a part of, Caucasian or a part of the white society. And I just was like, why are we trying to do some type of reverse slavery or racism or whatever? And I was like, I don't know what this y'all trying to do, but it's like you said, it's 2022 and we don't need to be going backwards. We need to be moving forward. And we just started building momentum where more people of color's literature, their literary work is being picked up, it's being put out there. And I agree with you. Part of the reason why I decided to become a self-published author and not even bother to go through the process of trying to do book proposals and stuff like that is because I know the system, I know how to work it. And it's a very strong likelihood that some of these top people, if I'm not already working there, or if I don't already have some type of connection or something, or like you said, if I don't have money and I'm not a public facing person, is very, very low probability that you would have even accepted my proposal.
It's a money's game. I mean, like, am I gonna sell books? Is this person known? Right? Like, I mean, it's so many factors, which is unfortunate, but I understand it's a business, right? So maybe that's where we want to go. But why not spend the investment in sharing diverse stories? And like it goes in so many ways. Like, you have books which are represent stories of people of color, but not written by people of color, right? There's so many things around. So, that just makes you feel like, like, I don't understand, but, it's a system. It's a system. And, one thing I wanted to say about the book banning too, I tell my kids every day, one of the affirmations I would do every day, I tell them that you are powerful beyond measure. I am powerful beyond measure. And, sometimes I honestly think, as people of color, we have a drive, if you can come from nothing and make something like this, it takes a certain mentality, a certain resilience, certain strength to be able to push through anything and still make it, right? There's something about us. I don't know if there's something about, our people, us, like how we have the zeal to fight, we have the zeal to move forward. And I think it's frightening if you don't have that. It's very frightening if you don't understand that. It's very frightening if you see it coming. It's like a volcano, right? Imagine, I've never been in that experience, but imagine you're like down the mountain hill and then the volcano started to erupt. I used to have a very geographic, vivid imagination. Imagine a volcano started to erupt. It's so big, it's powerful, and the lava just keeps coming down the volcano, chasing after you. You know you can't face it. You know there's nothing to do but to run, right? So like when you see something so powerful coming, there's nothing to do but it's either you try to suppress it or you just let go, move, like open the way for that power to ignite, for that radiance to light up, right? And so it's like, I think that's the thing too that also frightens and really impose people to like, can I put oppression? Because they can see that fire burning, right? They can see that zeal, that energy, that determination to just come out. And we are there. Like, I think we've been there for a while. And so it's frightening if you don't have it. It's honestly frightening if you you can't match up, right? And
Exactly.
so what else can you do but oppress? Because you have the power right now to oppress, but it won't be for long, right? This is just a temporal thing. And, I believe that we have the right energy to make a change. We have the right zeal, resilience to push through regardless of what happens. And so I truly believe that eventually the system will work for us because we have that. We will never give up.
Yeah.
It's a fight that we are ready for it. And so I'm confident that, things, we're gonna have setbacks, but we're gonna push through those and make it even better.
Absolutely. It definitely takes a certain tenacity and resilience to continue to push through oppression and continue to say, by any means necessary, I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep striving. I'm going to keep fighting for my right as an individual, as a human being, as a human, not just a human doing, but a human being, and the inalienable rights that I have to move, to breathe, and to take up space in this arena, in this world. I have the ability and the right to do that because that's something that I was created, just like you, just like someone who has blood running through their veins, to have, and to have this opportunity. So I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think that like you said, if you can't control it, you try to figure out ways to, that, that's where redlining came from. That's where all of these different like little nuances and things, different laws and things like that, like the anti-lynching law was just finally signed. It took how long? But that's a whole nother conversation. But the fact that it was finally signed, that someone thought that it was important enough for that to go through. And it's just like, even those things, the fact that someone of color could can still be lynched and it was a law, it was legal, was a whole thing. And I was just like, it took to 2022 for this to be said, this is a hate crime. It's always been a hate crime. It's always been a crime against humanity. But now we have the ability to say, like, oh, well, there will be consequence for whatever action this entails. And I love the fact that what's happening now, which is not necessarily toppling traditional publishing, because I don't have any problems with traditional publishers. I know I love them and they're there for what they're there for. But I like what's happening, the fact that more people are saying, I don't need you to help me tell my story. I'll just go ahead and tell my own story. And what's being shown is there is a market for it, because you cannot deny, like, okay, you don't want us that you want to talk about it, but what you can't deny is numbers. And what you cannot deny is that if we're going to play the numbers games, here's the numbers, here's the mark, and all we have to do is come up with the right plan, with the strategic plan, build your community. That is very possible. You're seeing it happen. You're fully aware of it. So I completely agree with everything that you said. As we prepare to wrap up, because like I said, it's been a lovely hour talking with you, chatting with you, and please feel free to show your books on the screen so if people know where to pick them up and what they look like. And then I'll also
Yes.
make sure I put some information in the show notes, but please.
Yes, so my latest book is I Celebrate My Voice. I know I have my ring light on, but I was telling you about the flag of my country,
Yes.
that kid here, right? So it's got like little unique things, in this book that I show about that, because the biggest thing I wrote this one is because I felt like my voice was silenced for a long, long, long time, and I couldn't talk about so many hurtful things that I went through. And I wanted to make sure that even the children in my village, right, so small, they know that they have the courage to speak up. And so like this book, I wanted to show more. I think I show more unique things about my country, which, on my other visits, I do indulge the kids in some of those African stories as well. So that's my first book. So that's my latest book that just came out in February.
Okay.
And then this is my first one, I Celebrate My Skin.
Ooh, so pretty.
And again, we talk about our skin, how it's beautiful. They're all self-affirming books, written in prose, helping children really affirm, right, those things to them, that I celebrate my skin. It's beautiful just the way it is. So affirming and repeating and really understanding that they are enough. And yeah, I put in a little bit of like some child like that. Actually the book is set in my country because you will see like there's the South African safari a little bit there. You will see jacaranda trees, which are very common in Southern Africa. You will see like the kids playing in the water. You know, just it's literally just set at home. It's all outside,
Okay.
different scenes of that you can picture in my country. Sometimes I play a video of my country and I read my book, and everybody were like, they connect the pieces. So yeah, those are my books. And then I have 3 coloring books. I celebrate
Okay.
my skin coloring and activity. I celebrate my voice coloring and affirmation books. And then I have A to Z musical celebration. I bring musical and dances around the world in a coloring and affirmation way as well. I wanted them to be more meaningful. I see my books as a conversation starter. And so I want to carry on the conversation. And so my colorings is just not coloring. It's questions, it's affirmations, it's thoughtful activities that they can do to drive that message that I'm trying to push across. So
Awesome.
those
Awesome.
are my books.
Yes, thank you for that, for sharing. And you all please support her. But one last question, and what I want to get a piece of advice that you would give to maybe a first-time author or somebody who's been writing forever and they just have decided that they need the extra push to publish.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them if as they're starting their journey to publishing?
Yeah, I just did an interview and I gave this advice, and I'm actually gonna repeat it because I think it's so valuable. We talked about how we all have different experiences, right? Everybody has their own story.
Mhm.
And so if you wanting to write and you don't feel like your story is going to be good enough, you have some hesitation around that, I will tell you that everybody has a story that you only have lived, and that's a superpower in your story. Share that story, write that story. And the other thing is, don't give up. Give yourself time, give yourself grace, and just write, but find a way that works for you. Not everybody writes the same. We talked about that, Bri. We all write very differently.
Yep.
Find a way that works for you that will make it enjoyable, because when you are relaxed and you are not stressed out, that's the creativity space. And so you're more creative, you can write more if you don't build these pressure situations around yourself. So make it enjoyable, find what works for you, don't compare yourself with others, and just write. Those are my
Absolutely.
tips.
Absolutely. And thank you for them tips. And please let the people know where they can find you if you're on social media, where they can find you on social media.
Yes.
And I'll make sure that information is down in the show notes. It has been once again, I just can't stress it enough. It has been a lovely hour. It's been
Oh,
a joy talking to you. You're so
oh,
full of light
thank you.
and shines through so well. So please let us know where we can follow you
Yes.
at.
Thank you, Bri. I enjoy the conversation as well. So I am on Instagram. I am Nonku's Corner on Instagram. My website is nonkuscorner.com. And I am on Facebook. I have my full name there, but if you go Nonku's Corner, you can find my full name. It's very hard, but it's Nonku Gunene. But I think if you go to Facebook page, Nonku's Corner is the easiest one. I'm on YouTube. I'm Nonku's Corner. And I am on TikTok. I don't think I'm Nonku's Corner on TikTok just yet, but I am on TikTok as NKUNKZ. I couldn't change my username, but I'm everywhere. You can find me anywhere. I think if you search my name, Nonku, something's gonna come up. I've been doing a lot of things to really spread the word, and so you'll find me even through Google. If you Google my name, just part of it, I'm sure something's gonna come up. Or my titles: I celebrate my skin, I celebrate my voice. You'll be able to find me that way as well.
Yes, tell them Google me, baby. As Tiana, shout out to Tiana Taylor. Google me. Yes, I love it. So as always, you all, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I will catch you all back here next week. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.